RotoGrinders, first of two, a split slate day once again. 4 games right now as far as the 4-game slate starting at 12:35. Both DK and Fanduel, they did cooperate as far as having mirroring each other's schedule, mirroring each other's the games that are going to be going down today's 4-gamer. Myself and Tim, Tasteful Tides. We're going to be talking about this slate for the next 50 minutes or so until we yield to crunch time. Crunch time, of course, is going to take you all straight up the lock. You got TJ Zwarych. I believe TJ is going to be hosting that show, if I'm not mistaken. You got Derek Carty and Dave Potts. And we have Blake Snell. And we have plenty of time to talk about it in the slate. So I'm certainly looking forward to crunch time. Not just Blake Snell, Tim, but like super, super, super chalky Blake Snell. Because, you know, what else are you going to do on this 4-gamer? Man, yeah, Blake Snell. I'm just checking the ownership stuff right now on DK, 60%. Zach Eflin, 40%. Obviously, you got a roster of 25% of the pitchers throwing baseballs today. We got a completely absurd St. Louis Cardinals lineup already. I was congratulating them for winning the NL Central pre-show because this is the lineup you roll out. You know what? You're hungover, you celebrate after winning the division. And Nolan Arenado is not going to be playing baseball today. There's no Paul Goldschmidt, at least not starting. They might come in later in the game and muck things up if you're starting these Cardinals. And also Contreras is getting the day off facing Luke Weaver. Positive ballpark. Obviously, Weaver, not a pitcher we're afraid of. We have plenty of time, Tim. 4-gamer. Do you want to say what's up to the chat as well? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Yeah, we got Grandpa Steve hanging out in chat letting us know Goldie Arenado not playing baseball today for whatever reason. But, yeah. Tim, how are you? How are things in your world? And we got a 4-gamer. We can break this down from all sorts of angles.
Dean, do you remember when I told you that the Canes were going to win in 4? Do you remember when I made that comment?
Do you remember why I did not even gloat pre-show and throw that in your face? Because I'm not that guy. I'm not the, you know, I don't want to make you feel bad. But I do remember you said, you literally slid into my DMs unprompted and just told me Canes in 4.
I did.
I'm like, what's this?
Yeah, I know. That was a pretty bad take. But yeah.
Sebastian Aho who?
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I mean you just run so unbelievably good, Dean. Like I mean, your mush powers are just they're unprecedented. Like there's no comparison. Nobody else can mush. I mean, you have literally mushed the 3 best teams in the Eastern Conference of the NHL.
Wait, we're calling this a mush? No, I was on the Panthers, and the Panthers won. It's not a mush.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you just black clouded all those other teams, and you were like, no, like it's like you're Darth Vader, you know, like you just have these powers, like you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable.
I feel like you're manipulating the term mush because most people would say,
I am. You're right. I'm not using the term mush correctly, but you are the black cloud of anyone that's more talented. You know, like you're unstoppable, Dean. You're unstoppable. Like look at the Miami Heat, Dean. Look at the Miami Heat. That's
I'm actually we're at the point now where I don't know if you saw this news. This broke before we went on air. Gabe Vincent is out tonight, and I'm like, oh no, Gabe Vincent's out. Like we're at the level. Gabe Vincent's now at the level. It's like, oh no, like what are we gonna do? No Gabe Vincent?
Yeah, is that really going to be a game changer? Like I haven't been following basketball that much, but is that really going to affect anything? Like I know
he's been very good, and
he's been very good.
He's going to get paid a ton of money by someone in the
offseason. Really?
Yeah, he's going to get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to get paid. I don't know if Miami's going to pay him, but somebody's going to pay him, and he's been really, really good in the playoffs. Which again, it is surprising if you haven't really been paying attention. It's like, yeah, Gabe Vincent's been very good, and obviously they're without Tyler Hero as well, which you know he can shoot you into a game and shoot you out of a game depending on. And I don't know when he's coming back or if he's going to come back if they make it to the finals. But yeah, they're probably losing to Boston tonight. I think they're like 9-point dogs or something like that. So I think you got to win Game 6 if they don't win tonight, and then Game 7 all of a sudden. But let me ask you this, and we're going to talk baseball in a second, but. You know, is it a colossal failure if the Heat lose in 7 to Boston? Because I would say no. Like they were overachieving, but people are gonna like dunk on them and like make fun of them. You were 3-0 and you lost, but they never should have been up 3-0. Is the point?
It would be obviously extremely frustrating, extremely tilting for that organization. But I think if they look back in like 6 months, a year, and say, hey, we did really, really well that year, at the time, they're going to be very, very bitter if that happened.
Sure.
But yeah, I completely agree with you. They've completely overachieved. They are playing with house money right now. Like whatever happens, if they get swept, say by Denver, who cares? They did amazing.
Yeah.
It's like whatever they do from here on out, they've already way overachieved.
What's up to the chat? Dante saying congrats. There was a hail attack yesterday. I was in the show. I don't know if you were watching yesterday, but literally like hail was smashing it was so loud. There was a hailstorm. Yeah.
I missed the show.
Oh my god. It was I thought the roof was gonna cave in. I couldn't believe how loud it was. But we did survive. And also apparently TJ announced that maybe we can talk to him about this. I wasn't aware of this. You were promoted to director of fun. Is that true? Can you confirm this?
No, that's definitely a lie. I don't. There's probably not enough money in the world for that I take that job.
You would just refuse. I want to see you be like. I want to. My dream job for you is to be like on a Carnival cruise and like the director of fun in Carnival.
No, there's no chance. There's no chance. I'm honestly trying to think of like a salary that I would accept to do that. It would be extremely high. You
could just take the salary and not do it and not direct fun.
I still have to. I would assume I'd still have to get on the ship, Dean.
Oh, you don't want to be on the ship. Yeah, that's not.
I don't really want to like put pants on, and go to the grocery store, let alone go on a cruise ship. So
you an Instacart guy?
If I lived in an area that was available, I would 100% be an Instacart guy. But we don't have those things in rural Maine, Dean. We don't have those modern day luxuries.
You say rural Maine. Is rural assumed? Is all of Maine rural? Part of my ignorance. I've never been.
I would say a lot of it. Yeah, I would say a lot of it. There's very, very, very few places where it's not rural.
Robert in the chat saying, Dante in the chat saying, can we talk about how unbelievably good Vegas has been since coming to the league? That was our pre-show conversation. We were talking about Vegas, amongst other things. Yeah,
they have really changed like the outlook of expansion franchises, I think, for all sports, just because they've been so dominant since they've started out. And I think it's a truly incredible story. They have run their organization extremely well. They have made these amazing trades since they've been in the NHL. So yeah, it's not going to be the Stanley Cup, that I wanted to watch, but I'm still going to watch it. And I'm not really sure who I'm going to root for because
I'm right here. What do you mean?
I mean, Dean, I don't. You already ruined my NHL playoffs. I can't really. I can't. It's hard because it's a really amazing story what Florida's doing, beating these powerhouse juggernaut teams. So it's really, really impressive what they've done. I love a good underdog story. If you weren't a fan, I would 100% root for Florida. I'll just put that on. I'll just put that on the record right now. Yeah, I mean it's truly incredible what Florida has done, but it's also incredible what Vegas has done just from an organizational standpoint in the years that they've been in the NHL.
Yeah, Florida's not been in the Cup since 1996, the days of Brian Skrudlin, Scott Mlb, and John Van Beesbrook. There's some old school names for some old people out there. Shout out to the old school Panthers. They shouldn't have been in the playoffs. They barely made it in the playoffs. Boston, your Bruins had them beat. They were down 3-1. They tied the game in Game 7. Was it Game 7? They tied it down a minute or so. I believe it was down a minute, and they scored in overtime. And they went every single game in overtime. But it's been completely outrageous. They've been awesome.
I remember that game. I remember that game well because I actually had money on that game.
Oh,
I don't bet sports a lot, but I bet that one, and that was a painful beat.
Boston was like a heavy favorite, though, right? You had to lay a lot of juice, I imagine.
Well, no, I bet them to win. I bet them to win the cup. Yeah, not that individual game. So that one.
The Panthers touched the cup, by the way. Is that still a true? I mean, they were talking about that. Gretzky said, like, he was in the studio. He was like, "I'm glad they touched it. It's all nonsense. Who cares?"
Yeah.
Is that more of an old school thing of not touching the cup?
I don't really know. Like, I'm not like this like old school hockey purist. I don't really know what the story behind that is, so I'm not sure.
Okay. I think it's just like a jinx thing, and it's just like one of those old things, like, that's not the trophy you want, so you don't touch it, that kind of thing. What was I can't remember the name of the cup that you raise when you win the Eastern Conference, but yeah, should be fun. Looking forward to it. We'll talk baseball again. 4-gamer, plenty of time to dig into it. We did kind of tease it as far as St. Louis, their lineup they're rolling out today in Cincinnati. 9.5 total in that game. Are they still favored doing this game? Unless the odds have changed. Obviously no Goldie, no Contreras, and who else is missing? Arenado.
Arenado.
Newbar, Gorman, Donovan, DeYoung, Burleson, Yepes, Edman, Kisner, and Mercado. We do have a Cincinnati lineup as well. Friedel, McLean, India, Fraley, Stevenson, Steer, Senzel, Fairchild, and Luke Male. We did get a Toronto lineup. The Toronto Blue Jays take on the Rays at 1 o'clock, 1:10. I guess you want to get all specific and technical. They're without George Springer. Bichette in the 1 spot. Varsho moved up to the 2 spot. Bichette, Varsho, Vladdy, Belt batting cleanup. Chapman, Nathan Lukes, who he's got some speed. I did roster this guy about a week ago or so. He got his first career base hit, but he was pinch hit for. I can't remember who it was for, but like when a righty came in, he got the hook. Although he's starting against a righty, but you never really know with these things. But maybe there's some pinch hit risk. I know he's been like a pinch runner this year as well for Toronto. After Luke's, Alejandro Kirk, Kiermaier, and Biggio. Is there somebody else missing besides Springer? I feel like there's like 2 guys. 2 of the regulars are not in there. I don't know, for some reason that's not coming to me. But maybe it's just shuffled up differently. That lineup looks. I mean, because I guess Luke's is basically playing for Springer essentially, and it's just a different.
That's the only thing that I see, other than Jansen sometimes is in for Kirk, and sometimes Kirk DHs actually, but Jensen is hurt.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Kez fan says it's a terrible take. If the Heat lose in 7, they were the first team in NBA history to ever blow a 3-0 lead. It would be devastating. I didn't argue. I didn't say it wouldn't be devastating. Of course it would be devastating. But it's not like it wouldn't be a massive failure because they shouldn't be in that position. That they're already overachieving. It would be one for the history book as well. So it's semantics or whatever, but it would be devastating. But when you look back on it, it's like
I see both sides of that argument. I actually do lean with Dean on this one. That's what I don't like to do that. But I'll call it as I see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand. Like in the moment, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, in the moment, they're going to be furious. But I think over time they'll say that they overachieved.
Life is about expectations, right? And you didn't expect, or we didn't expect, in the Heat. You hit the hook up the lie detector. They didn't really think they're going to be up 3-0 in this series. Come on, let's be real. But once you are, now you're expecting, we're going to be in the finals. This is, if not game 4, maybe game 5, possibly game 6. We're not going to blow it in game 7, are we? And what if they do? And then all of a sudden, now you're expecting to be in the finals, and that's what happens. Yeah, so I get all of it. But hopefully they're probably not going to win tonight, but maybe they'll win game 6. We'll see. It's a core slate. It's a Blake Snell slate. Braxton Miller takes on Freeland later. We kind of mentioned this as well, by the way. What's interesting, we're not going to have lineups. We're unlikely to have lineups when the slate starts for San Diego and Washington. 4:05 start. Probably we don't have lineups for the Coors game. 11 total there. Marlins have almost a 6 total against Kyle Freeland. Braxton Garrett on the other side. So it's like we can sort of guess and we can kind of assume, and most teams are probably not going to do what St. Louis is doing and sitting 3 of their top players. Do you have a general strategy? You're just kind of making lineups and assuming like you're going to get the guys you're going to get and you'll adjust if you need to. Are you loading up on these Cardinals that are kind of cheap against Luke Weaver? That's still a pretty nice total and a nice ballpark, obviously. And then, of course, we'll get to the pitching where Blake Snell chalk is super, super scary, but that's the world we're living in, especially on DK, where, again, you got to roster 25% of these pitchers. Currently 60% ownership for Blake Snell. Eflin at 40%. Mikolas at 35%. Garrett 23%. Manoah 21%, which makes me really squeamish. I'm curious to get your Manoah take. I can't believe how bad he's been this year. Weaver at 10. I guess you can bump him up a tick because of that lineup that St. Louis is rolling out. Irvin, Freeland not getting much ownership at all. Garrett getting 23% is kind of interesting. Pitcher in cores, but it's kind of the nature of the slate and how bad that Colorado lineup is. Give me your screenshot. Give me your overview. What are we looking at? What kind of chalk are we leaning into? For me, like on a 4-gamer, this is where I think you're allowed to get as goofy as you want to be, basically, right? And you can kind of make lineups, and you're like, well, I'm almost definitely going to lose this. But you can tell yourself a story like, what if something super goofy happens? Your approach to this 4-game slate.
Yeah, this whole slate makes me squeamish. It's really no other way to put it. It's really, really, really ugly. This is a really tough slate. It's a tough slate whether you're a MME player. It's a tough slate whether you're a 3-max player, single entry player, or cash game player. This is a very, very, very gross slate. The biggest decision is going to be Blake Snell. That's the bottom line. He's going to be very, very popular. He's a terrifying pitcher to pitch at any time. Now he's going to be extremely highly owned. He's one of the better pitchers on the slate, which shows how weak pitching is today. The other thing that I wanted to mention, Zach Eflin this year, if you look at this year's numbers, he's definitely the best pitcher on the slate. The issue that I have with Eflin is pitch count. We have him projected for about 86 pitches. The bat lands around the same. He's not cheap. The other thing that I'd mention, I guess I'm getting kind of, going a little different order here. But the other thing I'd mention is that Toronto is one of our highest rated leverage stacks on our top stacks tool. So, if I'm an MME player, I'm going to want to get overweight on Toronto. We run these simulations, over 10,000 times using our Plate IQ projections. And what it spits out is really quite interesting at times. So when I see Toronto that has almost a 19% optimal rate, and they're only going to be owned a little over 8%, that's huge positive leverage. You rarely see that. And I just want people to take note of that, because I know that not everybody who's listening can see that page. I'm just giving a little bit of people, some views behind the scenes, right? And but the thing is, I can't sit here and tell you Eflin's a bad play. He probably isn't. He's been very good this year. But I do have concerns with Eflin because he's only gone over, I think, 85 pitches once all year. He's very, very expensive. And of course, look at that optimal rate for Toronto. So there's a lot of red flags sticking out. Obviously, now you could say, well, aren't there red flags about Blake Snell? Yeah, you're right. There definitely are. It's pretty scary stuff. And same thing with Manoah, Mikolas, and Weaver. There are no safe options. So if I'm making 20 lineups, boy, am I going to be spreading out all over the place. And I'm not going to worry about, am I going to be overweight this guy? Oh, do I have to make a huge stand on this stack or this pitcher? I don't really think you do. Because it's, all in all, it's pretty ugly. I don't have a lot of conviction. My lean is I'm going to pitch Blake Snell, and I'm just going to, I remember being on a show when Blake Snell was going to be super chalky. He was 8,200 against the Reds, and nobody wanted to play him, and it was the same idea. And he pitched quite decently. I mean, it was scary. He gave up a couple runs, and it was not like the most beautiful, thing to watch, but he got you 20 points.
You watch him when you roster him. It's always
actually, I was just gonna say, I actually just don't even. I almost never watch him.
So frustrating to watch.
But still, he got 20 points. And so imagine your pitcher on this slate getting 20 points. You're going to be thrilled. Doesn't matter how he gets there. Doesn't matter who you roster. Like if you get 15 to 20 points from any guy on the slate, you're going to be thrilled.
The retort, by the way, that's his biggest start of the season. 20.7 against Cincinnati. That's been his ceiling game this year. It's not been great. This is the guy like we have seen in the past, 5 innings, like 11 strikeouts. Like that's happened. That guy has not really walked through the door this year just yet. You mentioned Eflin. Yeah, like he's got the best Sierra, the lowest Sierra in the slate, the best K rate in the slate at 28.4%. And like if he puts up 15, like I think you'll take that, right? That's not going to like win it for you or lose it for you, but just I think you'll take 15, right? Like that's not a monster number if he only goes and throws 90 pitches or whatever. And you said you're talking about like as a decision point Snell, and it sounds like you're on Snell. Let's say you're not. Let's say you say, you know what, I don't want a 60% Blake Snell, and I know you play a lot of 3-entry max, a lot of single entry. You know that's going to be even higher in single entry and 3-entry max. This is for large field where people tend to spread out more. When you only have one bullet, most people are not going to. They're going to tend to lean in to the quote unquote like good stuff or the chalk, however you want to phrase that. The follow-up question, if like let's just take you down the different path. Let's say you're not playing Snell. You got to answer a follow-up question. Then who, right? And if you're playing DK, it's like then it's 2 guys, right? So who would it be? And again, like you said, you outlined it. None of these guys are comfortable, or they're different degrees of uncomfortable. I referenced Manoah, who's all the way down to 7-9 on DK, fully justifiable because he's been terrible. If you're not playing Snell, who would you play? And you're kind of hoping for Snell to implode and do his thing and walk 17 guys. And maybe you're not really rooting for your guy to put up a 25, but just like be stable and Snell not to be stable. Because again, if you want to take a peek at the game log, and I don't like to just game log watch, but he's had like 8 or 9 starts so far this year. He's got a negative 1.8, an 8.7, a 2.8 last time out versus Boston. Gave up a couple homers, 2 walks. The walks are a problem. 4 walks previous to that, 3 walks before that. Walk rate on this slate isn't the highest. Jake Irvin has got him in a small sample at 14.6%, but Snell's walk rate of 13.4% is just not acceptable. And he's also facing a Washington team that, they're not good, breaking news, but they will make contact, right? We don't have an official lineup for Washington, but their projected lineup is just a 20.4% as far as Ks. One thing you can say, it's a very impatient lineup. Outside of Call, 13% walk rate, everybody else is in the red when it comes to their walk rate. If you pull up the plate IQ collectively at 6.3%. So they're not patient. So you can make that counter argument. But if you were hypothetically not playing Snell, who would you feel least squeamish about rostering instead of him?
Probably Mikolas, just because it's Cincinnati. He does a pretty good job of controlling like hard hits, and the Reds do strike out at a pretty high level. So he has a really pretty steady leash also. So I would rank Mikolas over Manoah and Weaver. It's kind of weird. I do have a little bit of interest in Braxton Garrett just because he has really good control. He's got good control. You need Babbitt to go in his favor. I could see him having success. It's scary, but everything's scary. I don't really have any interest in Jake Irvin. I don't have any interest really in Manoah. I have some interest in Luke Weaver just because that lineup is really, really, really watered down. But I could see getting some exposure to both sides of that game if I'm making 20 teams, to be honest with you. I could see having St. Louis stacks, and I could also see having a little bit of a sprinkle of Luke Weaver. So, yeah.
TJ hanging out in chat. TJ, of course, Toronto Blue Jay fan. He said, for what it's worth, Manoah looked real good last start. I mean, again, the season-long numbers on Manoah are so bad. For a guy that like came into the season, as I don't know, top 25 pitcher, however you want to rank him, the Ks have just disappeared. 16.9%. That is so bad. The walks are outrageous at 13.9%. And the other part is, like that we didn't even talk about yet, is he's facing Tampa. And Tampa, everybody on Tampa, everyone is in some form of the green when it comes to isolated power, with the exception of Mejia at a 156. But these guys, Tampa comes with a lot of power. I know the ballpark's not spectacular for power. I don't feel good about Manoah, but I want to see him turn it around. I really do. This just doesn't feel like the spot where he would do so. Woba versus lefties 381, Woba versus righties 355. Both are hitting him hard. I don't feel comfortable about it. It's just a tough lineup in Tampa. I don't know how they do it. They're kind of smoke and mirrors, right? It feels like the collection of their parts is better than the individual pieces.
You think Tampa Bay is smoke and mirrors?
Oh, like this roster shouldn't be the.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I was just making sure I was hearing you correctly.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this roster, like on paper or whatever on the laptop, it's like I can't believe this is the roster. And obviously they're shuffling guys in and out, and they're very specific with their analytics as far as their lineup every single day. But it is pretty surprising that they have one of the top offenses in baseball. Also, including the fact that they play in the ballpark they play in. But that's what they've been doing. The numbers are the numbers.
I think you know what I would say to that statement is that I think that they might be smoke and mirrors from a DFS point of view. I don't think that they're smoke and mirrors from like a real life perspective.
Explain that.
Well, in terms of how good they are, just from a real life perspective, I don't think that's smoke and mirrors. I think this is a top 5 team in baseball. Now, like, are guys that are kind of overachieving from a DFS perspective, like sometimes they can be kind of really, 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 really expensive and are paying off those price tags. I think that might be a little bit of the smoke and mirrors, and that's just purely from a DFS perspective. In terms of real life, though, I think this team is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're legit too. And pitching obviously is always solid there.
Yeah,
and I 230 ISO. Okay.
Yeah, and I just love what they do with their analytics too. They're really outsmarting people. Now, analytics though can be really bad for DFS because they're quick with the hooks, they're quick with the pitch hitting. You know what I mean? So like, how do you use that with your DFS lineups? That I don't know. That to me is a little bit of the more of the smoke and mirrors part because they're not cheap. They're quick with pitch hitting. And so how do you stack them? How do you utilize this team? It's tough to do. I play a lot of single entries and I don't usually use the Rays because I'm always worried about pinch hitting. Like maybe I'll get a one-off a Rosarena or Brandon Lau or something like that, a guy that I feel like is going to get all their at-bats.
But they'll pinch hit Lau, though, in the right situation, left on left. It'll happen.
I know.
At least 5K, we're getting pinch hit for.
Right, I know. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, the way that I play, I don't get a lot of exposure to them. But they're still an amazing team.
By the way, I just pulled this up on the fly. Their WRC plus Tampa is 139. That means they're 39% better than the average team. And, of course, the WRC plus does account for ballpark. The next team in baseball is Texas, who people love giving Cardi the business. I don't know if you're there the day when Cardi was saying Texas was a bad offense or a bottom 10 offense. To be fair, I think that was before. I think that was when Seager was not playing, to be fair. And maybe it was specific to that lineup that day, but the chat was on top of him for sure. Kind of surprising Texas number 2. But that's not the point. The point is that Tampa is 139 and the next team is 118 in Texas, a difference of 21 points. Which is the difference of number 2, Texas, and 17, Seattle. So the difference between 1 and 2 is equal to the difference between 2 and 17. If you want to know how good Tampa's offense has been this year. Like, that's outrageous. And that's kind of, I think they've been overachieving. They're not that good. They're good, but they can't be that good. Can they? I don't think so. but good for them. And I'm with you. I root for Tampa because I appreciate how they overachieve with the little they have. So, yeah. By the way, I think Freeland's in play to some degree. I'm still not a believer the Marlins offense is very good. And Freeland, he's had some moments like pitching well in this ballpark at times, right?
To that point about Freeland, I think that I would rather pitch Freeland than Manoah. That could be like a horrible take, but if I'm going to get Freeland at 3% versus Manoah at 23%, I'm gonna be taking shots on Freeland.
I agree with you.
And there's a $1,400 price gap, so you can get an extra batter too. So if we're gonna play the who would you Freeland over who? Well, it's Freeland over Irvin for me.
Yes,
it's Freeland over Manoah for me. It's Freeland.
Weaver, Mikolas.
Yeah, not Mikolas. I'd still rather pitch Mikolas, but I mean, still, there's a huge ownership gap, Yeah. But I mean, I'd still rather play Mikolas, but maybe Freeland over Weaver. So I mean, really, he's kind of middle of the pack, and he's going to be the lowest owned pitcher on the slate.
Well, I mean, I think he's going to get more ownership than Irvin. Like this is we're arguing over like 1 percentage point, but I think he's going to get rostered for Irvin. Maybe I'm wrong. The Padres, by the way, they just how like people hate the White Sox. I think people are starting to hate the Padres because every single day it's like, oh yeah, the Padres are great, and they score 2 runs or they score 3 runs. And
I have stacked them so many times this year, and boy, have I lost some American dollars stacking that team.
Well, are you going to stack them today? Is that something you're considering?
I mean, I'm considering it because I'm just, I hate fun. I hate money, so.
Yeah. I theoretically, they have a 5.5 total here in Washington. Nice ballpark. Jake Irvin, not something we're afraid of. By the way, we did get a Tampa lineup. Josh Lowe. It's Josh Lau, right? No, it's Josh Lowe.
It's Lowe.
Can we trade all? Yeah. Can we all have a meeting and just figure this out?
It's Josh Lowe, Nate Lowe, and Brandon Lau. That's it.
And there's a 4th one on layaway, I think, in the Tampa organization. That's, I think, the brother of Brandon, I want to say. All right, so we got Franco batting 2, Rosarena batting 3, Brandon Lau, Harold Ramirez, Taylor Walls is batting 6 for the best offense in baseball. Luke Raleigh, who does really good against righties. He's another pinch hit risk, but he's batting 7th. Margot, and then Mejia. So I think that's Tampa's best lineup. Right?
I feel like that's the standard. That's the standard Rays lineup.
What's going on in chat? Let's see. They're asking about the Mariners. Yeah, Peter, come back tonight. We're talking to the Mariners later on this evening. This is the day slate, the 4-gamer. But spoiler alert, I think we're going to like the Mariners because they're facing Oakland.
I was going to say, I'll give them a spoiler. I say that they're not a bad play at all.
Dirk says Washington is the nut stack today. No one will play them solely on the 4 p.m. start and versus Snell. Well, also because they're Washington, but yes, your point is still recognized.
If you want to stack Nationals today, I've got no issue with that. You're going to be stacking against a highly volatile pitcher who's going to be the highest owned pitcher. That's you're going to get them at fairly small ownership. I don't hate it. I think it's really not that bad a play at all.
We got Plu in chat and it's asking for any locks. I think Plu was looking for like player props. The show that comes on before us, 10:30 weekdays every single day, Monday through Friday. You got Will, Chief Justice, the Take Your Pick'em show. I don't know what he had as far as takes when it comes specifically to the Manoah. We'll talk about it in a second. But he'll help you out on sites like Underdog and Prize Picks and help you out with player props around the
maybe we can give him one from Jimino's fantasy pick'em tool for Prize Picks and Underdog. real quick.
Go for it. You have it pulled up by chance?
I'll just give him a free one. Zach Eflin over 5 strikeouts. That's our highest edge bet on Prize Picks MLB right now. So that's one.
I want to see what our projections are for Manoah, because if that's the number 5 for Manoah, like I feel like
no for Eflin. Sorry,
I know, but no, you did say Eflin, but like Blue's throwing it out in chat talking about Manoah. Is he going to be going under 5 strikeouts? Is that the actual number? Because the
actual number is 5, but we have it leaning. We have them expected for 4.47,
which is lower. That's lower than 5, right?
That's good math, Dean.
Well, I went to UCF, so I got there pretty quickly. That's what I was trying to pull up. Is that the actual MAN? I'm spelling it wrong, right? So the tricky thing is, if you want to bet it over 4.5, you got to lay 154 juice. Get out of town. If you want under 4.5 is plus 122 on FanDuel. Or you can go 5.5 over 5.5 plus 130. I don't want that. But under 5.5 is minus 175. I don't want to lay that much juice either. I think under 4.5 at plus 122 is a pretty good bet. What do you think of that on FanDuel?
Under the 4.5.
You're getting positive juice plus 122.
I think that's decent.
There are some Ks in this lineup, but just Manoah's has not been producing them. It should be higher. His K rate last season was 22, 23, 24, 25, somewhere around there. Not elite, but pretty good. But this season at 16.9%, and the walks are outrageous too, at 13.9%. How patient is this Tampa lineup? Let's see, especially up top, it's pretty patient. Diaz 14.3%, Laua 12.5, and Rosarena 13.1. So they will take a walk. Your single entry, how ambitious are you willing to be? You're talking about playing Washington. Would you play them maybe as a little mini snack, tacked on? But that's assuming you don't play Snell. You're probably playing Snell.
Me personally, I'm going to be pitching Snell, so I'm not going to do that. If people wanted to go that route, I really don't have an issue with it. But I think the most ambitious thing that I'm going to do is play some Toronto bats and fade Eflin. That's going to be kind of like my boldish take, and just hope that Eflin is pedestrian. I'm not saying that he's going to be horrible, but I mean maybe get like three Toronto bats in there. Find like a cheaper stack to do like a more primary stack with. Pitch, Snell, Mikolas, something like that. And hope for the best, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that's what you should be doing, because I don't think there really is a right answer on this slate.
Yeah, I think Mikolas is kind of a bet against other pitchers, right? Because he feels you're essentially saying like, I'll take 12 points out of Mikolas and hope somebody else gets blown up. And he can too. BABIP can get him, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to compile like 7 or 8 strikeouts.
And what about another scenario? What if like Eflin gets 15 and he's 10-8? That's not a lot of points for a huge amount of your salary. So say he gets like 15, gives up a couple runs, 3 runs, like maybe a couple homers, and he's okay, but you can beat that for with guys that are in the 7K range. That's kind of my argument against Eflin, if there is an argument against him.
Would you take 15, no more, no less? If I can tell you, I can promise you before the slate starts. And you're mentioning the salary. How much does salary matter as far as the build? I guess it matters to some degree for you. Would you take 15 points out of Eflin? No more, no less. Would you lock that in if that was an option? Obviously, it's not.
I would lean to the no on that.
Okay.
That's my take. If you get 15 from him, I think that you're going to be behind. So that's kind of my issue with him.
Snell, same question. I know he's cheaper.
He's a little cheaper though, but he is going to be higher owned. I think that's a harder question to answer. I would lean again, just a lean. I would lean yes for Snell, just because of the price difference.
And the thing with Snell is like he feels more likely to put up like 22, 23, or 4 than he would put up 15, which he can. But like, his range of outcomes, the bell curve, however you want to talk about it, just all over the place. Good question from Mark in chat. Can we play Snell and Lane Thomas? And that leads to the inevitable, like we have 4 games. Can you roster a hitter against your pitcher? I think you can. I think Thomas is the guy who can steal a bag and not even necessarily score and get points that way. Snell is vulnerable to the stolen base. So as a general thought, or Thomas specifically, you're okay with that?
I'm all right with it. I wouldn't get too carried away with that idea, but yeah, that's fine if you wanted to do that one specific hitter against that one specific pitcher.
You're talking about like 15 points, like we're locking in for Eflin. Do you think your pitching is going to ultimately decide, who, if you win or lose, or it's just survive, and it's just going to be what offense, does enough damage, and that's that, and the pitchers don't matter? Is it like a pitching slate, or is it an offensive slate? Because I feel like it's more of an offense slate.
I feel like it's more of an offense slate. That's why I don't want to pay the premium for Eflin. If Eflin has a humongous game, you're obviously going to need him, and I will lose. So I'm betting on that he doesn't have that humongous game. And I'm certainly not saying he's going to have a horrible game. I'm just saying that he's probably going to land somewhere in the middle. And he's also going to be he's going to be the second highest owned pitcher on the slate. So Toronto's going to give you some automatic leverage. And like we saw in the Sims tool, they're really popping pretty hard. So I'm going to take advantage of that and hope that Toronto comes in, relatively lower owned, and then I can feel more comfortable pitching a chalky Snell because I've already gotten different by A, fading Eflin, and B, taking a couple bats against them.
TJ hanging out in chat. I'll be in about 10 minutes or so with I believe TJ's going to be hosting with Derek Hardy and Dave Potts. Cheeseisgood taking y'all straight up the lock. They're going to go around the horn, give their favorite plays, position by position, their favorite stacks, all that good stuff. We're here for the next 10 minutes or so. Feel free to fire off your questions. Whatever's on your mind, we want to answer as many questions as possible before we step aside. TJ says his single entry team today is the goofiest, the wildest he's ever made. Luch is hosting. Oh, it's no Cardi. My bad. I saw Dave. It's not Cardi. It's TJ and Dave Potts, and the Luch is hosting. Okay. All right. I want to hear TJ's take because he says his single entry team, and I like this being ambitious. He's got Freeland and Garrett as his 2 pitchers in a 3-3-1-1. I love it. I actually think that's not completely insane.
I don't think it's completely insane.
Yeah. We don't know what those lineups are going to look like specifically as far as the Coors Field. It's a 4:00 game, but they're not going to be great, especially the Colorado side. I know Jorge Soler's numbers against lefties this year are completely insane. I'm not sure if that's it's a small sample size, right? But let me pull it up. I assume they've improved since the last time I saw them. Dating back to last season, they're insane too. So this year in 44 at bats, he's got a 703 ISO, which just breaks it. Like this, what is that?
Who is that?
Jorge Soler, a 44 at bat sample against lefties, has got an isolated power of 703, which is basically double what the league leader has for isolated power, like Aaron Judge. I think his ISO is like 370 or something like that. Insane. Obviously, small sample, yada, yada. But I just thought that was interesting. It's pretty silly. According to K-Town's finest, Soler is plus 150 to homer today. Come on. Stop it. You can't bet that.
He's definitely going to homer, but I would never bet that.
He's certainly, if there's a draft, right? If we're drafting who's most likely to home run today, he's the 1-1.
Right.
But come on, you can't.
I would never. That's ridiculous. What? I wonder what site that was.
I mean, I can pull it up. I bet you it's not. I bet you it's more than 1 or close to it.
That's absurd.
Maybe you can get plus 200s. Okay, so Caesars. Oh wait, yes, Caesars. He's plus 145
Ooh,
What? FanDuel is plus 220. So if you want to bet it, that's better. I still wouldn't recommend that personally.
No.
Yeah, TJ saying watch him not be in the lineup. Like you'd think he would, but and it's not like it's an afternoon game out west, isn't it? I guess it's like 2:00 local time, or is it 1:00 local time? If he's not, then you feel better about Freeland for sure. What else is worth noting as far as this slate? I had some thoughts. I lost my question. I apologize. I had something in the chamber and just kind of went aside. Do you have any homer picks? Anybody's gonna besides Jorge Soler? Feel free to be more ambitious. And I don't want to hear Spidey saying Jorge Soler, TJ. I know he's probably spitting it out and he wants to just put it on the board, but hopefully he's more ambitious. Besides Soler, who's gonna homer today?
Let me pull up scores and odds right now because I never actually pull up the odds, and I'd like to actually find something that actually has proper odds before I start saying names.
Yeah, so the best thing to do is you go to like for a difference, the difference in percentages. I guess you're figuring that you know what to do, right? I assume you know what's going on.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't bet these, but I do kind of know what's going on. I'm trying to find somebody who's, man.
I got one for tonight.
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Mullins at plus 680 in Yankee Stadium. That seems on FanDuel. That seems pretty good. And actually, according to our projections, he's got like his actual chances are plus 335. So our projections like Mullins the homer at what plus 680. That seems too high. He's facing it's a righty, right? Isn't it? It's Schmidt. Yeah, it is Schmidt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think Wrigley, the wind is bad again, right, for hitting. That's why Morel's getting pushed down.
Look at Joey Meneses.
What is Meneses? He had some power last year.
Yeah. Can't find
plus 680.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
Plus 680 on FanDuel.
Plus 460 on Caesars. Caesars, I'm seeing a pattern. Probably not the best place to get.
Now, Dean, don't be calling out anybody out now. You never know who our new sponsors are going to be.
Look, line shopping and price shopping is one of the biggest edges you have in sports gambling. So I feel it's an obligation to point that out. I understand what you're saying, but like Christopher Morel, 650 on Caesars.
What about Brian Dela Cruz plus 700?
That's not bad. That seems pretty good. Yeah. Oh, Alan in chat says we just lost Caesars. Well, it was a good run. Another Alan wants to know about a 4-4 Rays Cardinal stack. Is that too chalky for tournaments? No, not at all. I don't think the Rays are going to be fairly. You talk about the Rays being expensive. The Cardinals are tricky because I don't know how many I want to commit to early, if that makes sense, right?
I wonder if that was a FanDuel question because he asked about a 4-4.
No, he said DK.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I don't think that's going to be chalky at all. I mean, everyone's going to have a little bit of ownership today, but I don't think that's out of hand ownership.
Do you have a favorite Cardinal with this lineup? I like Gorman a good bit. I think Gorman's a really strong play. They have been letting him hit left on left more of late, so the pinch hit risk probably diminished a little bit. He's 4-5 on DK. Love that ballpark. Obviously,
I would agree with Gorman. I think the biggest pinch hit risk for St. Louis is Burleson. So I think Gorman is. I think Gorman's a great choice.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the thing is like they probably ideally they don't want to pinch hit their guys, but they have three really big bats on the bench, and if it's a 4-4 game in the 8th inning, the situation calls for it. It feels like there's a decent chance. It's hard to predict whose number is going to come up because you don't really know what the scenario is going to be, but they're lurking, right? Arenado, as far as I know, those guys are all healthy. They're just getting a day. Let's see what we have, by the way. I'll take a peek at Derek Hardy's The Bat and see if we have anything interesting as far as pitchers. I feel like Yepes is another guy that could get the hook. Scrolling to it as quickly as possible. Oh, I have the night game. Bowers. I want to get that up. Bowers pops all the time as far as a pinch hit risk. But as far as
so it's Andrew Nizer 24% and Burleson 21%, Gorman 11, Donovan 10. Those are the only ones that are. Those are the 4 highest pinch hit risks according to the bat.
By the way, when I said before, Luke's 44% chance for Toronto. Yeah. They have pinch hit for him before, and also Belt's a guy that can get pinch hit for. And Springer is lurking. If the situation calls for it, Springer will come in as well. Oh, I should note this, unless nothing's changed in that Washington bullpen. I don't think it has. Just realized this yesterday. Like when I got off the show, I recognized this. It didn't help because I felt much better about Matt Carpenter. But the Nationals, again, an organization, they don't care about winning. They don't understand that maybe we should have pitchers that throw from both the left side and the right side in our bullpen. All righties in their bullpen. So just worth noting, obviously they're starting Jake Irvin, a righty as well. So Carpenter theoretically should be good, right? The chances of him getting the hook are less likely because it's all righties in that Nationals bullpen, assuming Carpenter even starts. We don't have that lineup just yet. Did you give me a homer? Oh, you did. You just kind of threw some out as far as odds-wise, like De La Cruz you liked, correct?
Yeah, De La Cruz, Meneses, I think is pretty decent. I think those would be my 2 guys that I would take shots on in the props market.
Do you have a hot take or like a bold stand? And how willing are you to get goofy in the single entry, 3 entry max stuff? Because it's
Toronto bats are my bold stand.
Do you play Luke's or you don't need it as far as a salary saver?
I'm not going to do that. No.
All right. We got TJ Zwarych. We have Spidey as well. Hit that like button so Spidey can make an appearance. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. We have the Luch as well. Dave Potts. Cheeseisgood. Potts, this Cardinals lineup. I don't know, man. What's going on here? What is this?
Yeah, you know what's weird? Like, it's crazy enough to begin with how bad the Cardinals have been, but the fact that this is like their nonsense lineup, it's still actually pretty good. Like, I don't know how this team's not winning everything. Like, their pretend let's play the bottom of the bench lineup is still pretty good. So I still like them today.
I guess it's their pitching's not been great. And why? What are they doing with Liberatore? They're still jerking him around. Is he officially going to start again? He was in the bullpen.
Supposedly he's in now, but I mean I don't know that I actually believe that.
This is the second time you've used the term jerking around in a GrindersLive to crunch time transition in the last 24 hours.
I didn't realize there was a tote board. There's a tally.
You don't know all the things TJ is keeping track of over there.
Hey, Dave, have you written the musings yet for the nightcap for the 4-gamer tonight?
Yes, I just posted it before this.
I'm looking forward to your blurb. I could not believe Julio Teheran. Is that for Julio Teheran? Is what? It's what 2023? Julio Teheran is throwing baseballs professionally this evening, allegedly. Is that for real?
Yeah, I had no idea he was coming back. I mean, I really just thought he was kind of gone forever. Yeah, I did talk about the Giants a lot in the musings for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at this last night and I couldn't believe it. And Teheran, I think we last saw him in the majors in 2021, I want to say.
For like one game.
Yeah. And then was it 2020? And
it's 30 innings since 2019.
Okay. Yeah, I was going back year by year.
Where has he been? Where has he been, Cheese? Just like in the minors?
He got hurt. And then so he hasn't even been in the minors. I meant to go look up and see exactly what happened. But he disappeared because of injury. And then I haven't had time to dig into exactly what he's been doing these last couple of years. Because I was as stunned as anyone to see him on the list today.
He's still only 33. He's not nearly.
Yeah, he's not old.
I don't even think he passed his physical until yesterday to join the team.
Yeah, they weren't as of this morning. They weren't even sure that he could pitch.
What could go wrong? That's the question.
Nothing.
Well, the problem is, and I'm sure Dave, you probably touched on this, and we'll talk about this later on tonight. But you're gonna love the lefties, but how many pitches can Teheran throw? And once he comes in, how many guys get pinch hit for in the Giants is sort of my conundrum.
Yeah, so luckily they only have one lefty in the pen right now, which doesn't mean still the Giants can take a couple lefties out for one lefty in the bullpen. Like we've seen them do that before, but I'm not. Yeah, it really is. It's like 8 righties and 1 lefty, so I'm not wildly concerned about it.
Hobie Milner is a person that throws from the left-hand side
That's
for Milwaukee. Yeah, he pitched on Monday and he pitched on Wednesday, so he's been working hard of late. But there you go. One more lefty than Washington has. Washington has 0, Dave.
Yeah, like you say, they are definitely trying hard.
Good efforts. Tim, anything else before? Oh, TJ, you promoted Tim to director of fun yesterday. And Tim, I'm not sure if you've heard this, he's rejected that promotion. He's not interested.
I did not promote him to that. That's my position with the bat.
Wait,
we were trying to decide if Tim could handle the role, and I think the consensus was no.
Absolutely not.
No, that's no. I just got promoted to director of fun at the bat. I'm not going to be readily giving that up to him.
Wait, why is it at the bat specifically? Yeah, why does it have to be at the bat? I don't understand.
I don't know. That's where because Cardi's the one who gave me the job.
Oh, I missed that part. But
that's where a fun coordinator job was currently available.
I'm pretty sure Alan Lem is the director of fun at RotoGrinders, so I will step in if he ever retires.
I don't think you know enough narratives to have the full job at RotoGrinders.
Exactly. We need your narrative power rankings before you officially get locked in. Tim, we moving on? Anything else before we yield to the Fanduel sponsor, Crunch Time?
Nope. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you for congratulating the Florida Panthers. I didn't hear you say it verbally, but I saw it in your eyes, and that was enough for me.
Yeah, that definitely. I never said
that. That was Tim. I was Dean. Fanduel sponsor Crunch Time. You got the Luch, you got TJ, you have Dave Potts. Cheeseisgood. Luch, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Until I see the LinkedIn update on your new position, it's not real. Until I see TJ Zwarych has been promoted to whatever director of fun you're talking about. Interesting
director of fun as well as Spidey Bomb connoisseur.
Before we move on, and it's good to see you guys, Dave Potts, who won the battle of the who's a duty head yesterday after the whole Ranger Suarez debacle? Can we unofficially crown a winner or a loser of that debate?
Not really. I mean, he was bad as expected, but I mean, he wasn't like horrendous. No, he was not worth playing in DFS, but I mean, it was fine-ish. I don't need to dunk on Gardy for calling me a duty head for stating facts. That is his choice to make.
You're so humble. I like it.
I tried to get them to fight on Crunch Time last night too. It didn't work.
You're always in the middle of the Crunch Time scuffle there, TJ. People are always dragging your name through the mud and throwing out false accusations.
I know. Dean, it's always almost always Dean. Yeah, all I'm trying to do is just help the people have some fun, and then people like Dean and Kirk D's, they're always trying to bring me down, but we're not going to let it happen. We got, let's say, 75 likes for our first Spidey Bomb here. Let's keep hammering that like button. We got some daytime baseball. Love some daytime baseball, even though it is a bit of a weird, short 4-game slate.
Yeah, if you thought yesterday's afternoon slate was fun, you're going to love this dumpster fire of a short slate we have. But before we get into pitching, some quick housekeeping stuff. Check out the new show on RotoGrinders. Our guy, Chief Justice 06, Will Priester, has a DFS Pick'em show, 10:30 Eastern every weekday. If you like the prop shop, if you like prize picks, if you just like following Chief, he's a good guy, then you're going to love his show every day, 10:30 Eastern on RotoGrinders. And, of course, if you're not signed up on FanDuel, an illegal sports betting state, why not? You get a $1,000 no-sweat first bet if you sign up where you're eligible. Without further ado, happy Logan Gilbert chalk afternoon. Cheese, talk to me about pitching.
Logan Gilbert's tonight. The afternoon is the Blake Snell chalk.
I love tab browsing. I have 30 windows open, and I just wrote the top stacks for the main slate. And I got carried away about Kyle Hendricks. I know we were talking about Julio Teheran, but
yeah,
we have a lot of garbage pitchers tonight, too.
Yeah, coming back out of
God.
nowhere.
Anyway, afternoon slate. Go ahead.
Okay, so really for both the afternoon and the night slate, which there'll be another show later on that, but like there's a chalk pitcher on both. And today, that chalk pitcher is Blake Snell. You guys should know this about me already. Blake Snell is not good. Blake Snell chalk, that's an easy pass for me. Now, it gets funny. Like sometimes I don't know exactly what my job is here. Like, am I supposed to just tell you what the best plays probably are? Like, probably, yeah, Blake Snell for 8,900 on DK against the Nationals probably is the best play. I have 0 Blake Snell in my lineups, so I don't feel like me telling you he's the best play is really all that accurate. If I have 60 lineups, I have 0 Blake Snell, and I wish I could have less. But he is probably the best play. This is just one of those super weird slates where, because of what's available, a very sketchy pitcher is just bound to be mega chalk. And I want no part of that. He's been so bad this year with the walks that even if he's pretty good, the chances of him putting up such a ceiling game that you can't possibly win without him, I'm just not scared of that. Like, even if he's the highest scoring pitcher on the slate, I don't think it's by so much that I care. So I'm not really telling you that you can't play Blake Snell. I'm just telling you that I am not playing Blake Snell at all, anywhere, period. What I am playing is an overspend on Zach Eflin. I do not actually think $10,800 Zach Eflin or 10-4 on Fanduel is a great play against Toronto. He's not. But I don't think he's going to put up a negative like Blake Snell just might decide to do. So for me on FanDuel, I want Eflin, or I want to mess around with this nonsense group of Michaelis, Weaver, and Garrett. The other guy that I just can't trust at all right now is Alek Manoah. You gotta throw a strike before I'm going to play you against Tampa. So I'm out on Snell and Manoah. I'm not telling you you have to be out on them. I'm just telling you I'm out on them. Officially, Eflin's my SP1. I'm very close with Michaelis and Braxton Garrett as my SP2, with Luke Weaver kind of just thrown in the mix here and there. Basically, I'm just hoping that Eflin gets you, your 15 points and Michaelis survives and everyone else goes negative.
That's fair. TJ, you in or out on the Blake Snell chalk today?
I have even less Blake Snell than Cheese because I'm running 150 lineups and I have 0 Blake Snell today. So
that is less than me. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's how the math works on that one. But I do have Manoah in my pool just based on, I kind of agree. Like, you got to see him throw some strikes before you play him, but he actually did last game. Last game, he only allowed 1 walk. He had 5 strikeouts, and then they accidentally pulled him from the game in the 6th inning. Like, he was pitching really well against the Orioles, and then they did a second mound visit because they were trying to do something with a double play, and because it was the second mound visit of the inning, they had to pull him out of the game and bring a reliever in. And
it's fascinating when a major league team does that. Like they don't remember that that's a thing.
He was pitching great, and they ended up losing the game after they pulled him out early. It was pretty disappointing, but just because the pitching's gross and it's a 4-game slate, I will take some shots on Manoah, but I'm not super confident in it by any means. I'm not overly confident in any of these pitchers, but the 50% plus Blake Snell is enough to get me off of them. And so my pool is just Eflin, Manoah, Michaelis, Weaver, Garrett, and even Kyle Freeland today, and I'm just going to be mixing and matching all of them.
Okay. Let me ask you guys this. I made one dummy lineup, and I'm not playing a lot personally today. I left almost $3,000 on the table. Is this a big leave money on the table slate for tournaments?
Yeah, it's totally fun.
Yeah, especially if you're not playing Eflin. I mean, it's almost hard to spend your salary without just playing the one mega chalk line.
That's fair. Any differences between sites pricing wise, pitching? Anything glaring sticking out to you?
It's pretty similar pricing wise. Like Eflin is priced way ahead of Snell, and then everything else is cheap enough that you can do whatever you want. So it really doesn't change between the sites for me. I would say it's even easier to get Eflin on FanDuel, even though again, like he is overpriced for the matchup.
Let's go around the horn here, go position by position. Of course, drop your questions in the Discord. And then, whatever you got in the YouTube, we'll get to you guys too. Talk to me about catcher. It's ugly, but here we are. You got a couple of Coors Field guys at the top, predictably, in terms of ownership. Tyler Stevenson against Mikolas. And, it's not an appetizing group here. Jeez.
It's really not. And then no Keibert Ruiz, who's kind of one of the main pivots. I'm pretty happy with Diaz as a spend up if you're not spending everywhere else. This is very much the play catcher in your stack kind of day. I think in cash, just play Fortes and don't worry about spending money here because it's not a position to spend money. But I have nothing to say. Just play a catcher in your stack today.
BJ, who are you stacking up?
From a cash perspective, are we catcher or stacks? I
guess, are you just prone to throwing catchers in your stacks today?
Oh, yeah, I got you. Sorry, I misunderstood on that one. So, it'll mostly just be a catcher in a stack for me. If I'm going to be wanting off someone, it'll probably be Diaz. If I'm doing a cash build and I have the money to go up from Fortes to Diaz, I'll probably do it. But those are the two guys we're choosing between. And we did get Ruiz out of there, but I do actually really like Riley Adams, who's in that lineup now as another guy. Like I'm trying to get to a decent amount of Washington stacks today. They're still going to end up being one of my lower owned stacks, but with it being such a small slate and me running 150, I'm still getting to a pretty decent amount of them. So that's something I like quite a bit today as well.
Good deal. Let's go over to first base. A little bit better of a position to talk about. We could actually have a conversation about some of these guys. So, Mr. Potts, I'll throw it over to you first.
So we just got a Miami lineup with no Garrett Cooper, which honestly is fine. But it does, take some chalk out of the position. In the big scheme of things, Jake Cronenworth will be a very chalky player, but much more so at second base. I think even in Eflin lineups, I'm playing some Vlad just because you have money sitting around. And then I really like both Carpenter and Meneses in that later game. That's about it.
TJ?
Yeah, that's similar for me today. Like, I really like Meneses. That's actually the guy in my single entry today. I like Carpenter as well. My favorite spend up is Vlad. Vlad's going to be my highest owned first baseman today in my 150 lineup build. So if I'm going cheap, it's Meneses or Carpenter. I think from like a cash perspective, I like Carpenter, but I just do really like stacking up against the chalky Blake Snell today. And so if I'm going cheap, it's one of those two. And then if I'm going expensive, it's Vlad.
Yeah, I like Carpenter in that 50% fly ball rate against righties this season. I'll take a shot at Matt Carpenter today. Over to second base, Cheese, Nolan Gorman, a couple of blips on the lineup HQ screen, and your blue one is one of them on Nolan Gorman. So talk to me, how much of a priority is Gorman to you today?
Given the position, like basically I do like Cronenworth, but especially on DK where you can play him at two positions, and then FanDuel, including the util, is essentially two positions. He might be my favorite player on the slate. I would probably take Soler and the Padres outfielders ahead of him straight up, but I love him for the home run upside. team context is great. Everything about him. If not my favorite player on the slate, one of my favorite players on the slate. Past him, it's still a decent position because we got Cronenworth and I like Brandon Lau pretty good bit. And then you do have Odor as a super cheap DraftKings play. So really plenty to like at this position. But with Gorman standing out and then Lau and Cronenworth kind of in their next little tier and then everything else past that.
Second base, TJ, anything else to add?
Gorman is my highest owned guy on the slate today. I really like getting to him. From there, it's basically just like in my stack position, not doing anything, not making any big stands outside of just getting to an absolute ton of Gorman today. India, Brandon Lau, Taylor Walls, Cronenworth, a little bit of Edwards and Trejo, and even a bit of Odor, but it's mostly just guys in my stacks outside of Gorman.
Move on to third base. Got a chalky birdie pushing 30%. You gotta love short course slates. Nolan Gorman is also eligible there too, so that's interesting and fun. If you really like him, you can move him around in your builds. Talk to me about third base, Cheese. What's going
on? Third is interesting. It's not nearly as deep as we usually see, and in fact, it's not deep enough that I like Gorman at third almost as much as at second on DK. And then on FanDuel, part of the reason Birdie is popular is because you can use him at three positions. I don't love him. But he is leading off at Coors, so yeah, sure, it makes sense. But outside of Soler and maybe De La Cruz, I'm just playing Marlins and stacks. I'm not really picking out these guys individually. I'd rather play like a Matt Chapman or a Spencer Steer, if not using Gorman there just to get some power upside.
You're muted, Luch, but I'll take us over to this one. That's a tally for me. Bang! That's a long running game that we have.
We've been keeping track of that for quite some time.
Yeah. That's score one for TJ on the Luch mute. I think Birdie is kind of like your cash guy, but I agree I'd want to be underweight for tournaments. The two guys here that I really like at this position for tournaments are Matt Chapman and Heimer Candelario. I agree if you're not playing Gorman at second, make sure you play him at third. Like I mentioned, he's my highest owned bat today. But Chapman and Candelario are the two I really like for tournaments.
Wasn't that game how many times I was muted to how many times you're interrupting me? What a testament to the great chemistry we had off the bat on the air together. Really just great stuff.
Hey, we pushed ourselves though, and we got a lot better.
Yeah, we sure did. We're gonna keep on keeping on. Joe Dirt. Yeah, Birdie's just eligible everywhere today, but man, I just can't pay almost $5K for him. I just not in my soul. Bogarts 10% on a short slate. I don't know. I mean, what are we doing here? Why not, right?
I like that, but the reason I don't love it is because Wander Franco is even sneakier than that. He's another one of those in the conversation for my favorite play on the slate, not counting the obvious outfielders. It's a pretty good position, though. You add Tatis in there on FanDuel. Paul DeYoung, super cheap on DK. CJ Abrams, super cheap on DK. Matt McClain, so far, so good on the rookie, and he's still pretty cheap. So I like all those guys. And then even like Bo Bichette is even probably sneakier than Bogarts and Franco. Like those three guys together, like those are great shortstops. And like we'll probably get more ownership on John Birdie, which is absurd.
It just seems like strategy-wise, if you're multi-entering, and I'm not, but TJ, I know you are. It just seems like a great opportunity to make a stand on Birdie, and if you go underweight on him, you can, have some leverage with some of these other super high upside shortstops. I'm curious what you did at this position with Birdie coming in, to be super popular.
Yeah, I do like so many different shortstops today that I have a cap that I'm only playing Birdie in stacks. I'm not playing him as a one-off. And then I have a cap that I want a max of 15% of them. And that'll allow me to get to Bo Bichette, my favorite of the sneaky trio, Franco and Bogarts a lot more. But I even like Matt McClain and Paul DeJong as well. And so Birdie's somebody that I do want to go quite underweight on today. And on DraftKings, I was even considering just like, because I actually like shortstop better than third today, I was considering just making it so Birdie can't be played at short.
Yeah, interesting position for sure. Let's move on to the outfield. Get your questions in. We got about 12:21 Eastern here, so we got about 15 minutes. I see a couple questions in the Discord. We will get to them momentarily.
15 likes away from the Spidey Bomb. Keep hitting that like button so we can just out some home run plays.
Hit that like button. TJ wants to share some home run plays. And since you were last to talk, we'll stick with you for outfield first, TJ. We'll switch it up a little bit here. Who are you looking at today?
All right, in the outfield position, I'm looking to spend up with the Padres. That's some chalk that I have no problem eating. I do like Jorge Soler as well. He just absolutely smashes lefties at an insane rate. Same with Brian De La Cruz. I'm all good with that. I would kind of rank them Soler, Tatis, Soto, De La Cruz, I think. But Lars Nootbaar is a guy I'm getting to a lot of as well. Brenton Doyle leading off today for Colorado. First time we've seen him in that leadoff spot. I like him as a one-off or part of a stack. There's just so many great outfielders today. I don't really feel like I need to stack at this position. This is kind of why my single entry today is a 3-3-1-1, because there's just so many of these guys that I like individually. The ones I already mentioned, but in addition, Josh Lowe leading off, Dalton Varsho batting second, Chris Bryant, TJ Friedl batting leadoff, Lane Thomas batting leadoff, Randall Grichuk in a nice spot today in that lineup. So so many phenomenal outfielders. I don't mind differentiating here all throughout.
I love leadoff Josh Lowe. I'm a Josh Lowe stan, but he's, out of anybody in this lineup, team leading 312 ISO against righties. And, to say Manoah's been bad this year has kind of been an understatement. XFIP of almost 7. It's at 6.5, striking out nobody, walking everybody. Cheese, you mentioned Wander Franco. So, is Josh Lowe in your pool of contrarian-ish outfielders today?
Oh, yeah. He's pretty high up the list as well. I think like Soler, Soto, and Tatis. That's kind of obvious chalk. And then kind of De La Cruz on DK. So yeah, that leaves like the cheap Washington outfielders, Tampa, like Josh Lowe and Arozarena will go way too far under the radar. So I like them a lot. More so in stacks, but I mean, I have some Lowe just on his own. Nootbaar's pretty interesting leading off. There's plenty to like, but anything you do to just not play just like Soler, Soto, and Tatis, I don't mind playing one of them as a one-off in most lineups. Since I'm not playing Snell, I'm already not like super chalky. But I don't want to just jam 3 chalk pads when there's really plenty to like out here.
TJ, give me your favorite off-the-wall stack today you're looking at.
Washington.
Like it. Cheese, if you had to pick one?
I mean, very much Washington. But since we already said, I'll give you a different one, I guess, even though it's Washington. I think Tampa counts as off the radar, which is silly.
Yeah, and I'm piggybacking off that. Steve in the Discord said that projections don't seem to like the Rays against Manoah very much. But why is that? Why would that be?
Because projections don't use current numbers. Like, it doesn't like last year's Alek Manoah. I mean, it doesn't like the Rays against last year's Alek Manoah. So that's why.
Good point. This is certainly not last year's Alek Manoah. And do you think that'll change anytime soon? I know TJ is a Toronto guy, so I'm curious to hear your input too.
I mean, I'm generally still on board with Manoah. I do think he will improve sooner than later. I'm not really anti-Manoah at all overall. But today on a 4-game slate, with the Rays being sneaky, I mean, I have to love the Rays.
What's up with Manoah, TJ? Are you giving him the benefit of the doubt for a while, or what? I mean, maybe not today, but long term.
So, long term, yes. They said at the beginning of the season, at his first start, that yeah, he's probably not going to be quite ready to start the year. He was hurt in the offseason, so he didn't get to do his conditioning. and he's going to be working himself into shape throughout the beginning of this season. His velocity was down. His control has obviously been the worst part of it. But he didn't have an off season, and he's just trying to get himself into that mode now. So I'm kind of viewing this still as the end of his spring training where he's going to be ready to ramp it back up. I hope, at least, but that's based on them saying like right off the bat. Yeah, he's probably not going to be ready to go out there and be Alek Manoah yet. It was expected, maybe not this bad, but it was expected. So that's why I'm not hitting the panic button.
It's true, but playing devil's advocate, it's not like it's his second turn through the rotation. So I guess I'm marginally worried, but we've seen what the guy's upside is. Anyway, enough about him. Another question in the Discord for DK Cash. Cheese, would you rather have Odor or Abrams for DK Cash?
Odor. Okay.
I had a question a while ago. I can't remember if GrindersLive answered it or not. Probably not. I think it's when we were crossing over. Is a 4-4 Rays and Cardinals lineup too chalky for tournaments on DraftKings? No. You guys good with it?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking that's fine too. Favorite pitcher for FanDuel GPPs? What are you looking at on FanDuel? I'll open it up to both of you. We don't have a ton of questions, so I'll leave the floor open. FanDuel tournaments, Cheese. What are your thoughts for pitcher? Who's your favorite?
My favorite is Zach Eflin. My second favorite is, I'll say it out loud, Braxton Garrett.
That's mine, Braxton Garrett.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you guys. This is a safe space. You can give me your scary thoughts out loud here.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but that's my favorite.
Yeah, I think he's the reason why I left so much money on the table on my dummy build, because there's paths to him outscoring like most of the pitchers priced higher than him, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite path. It might be a little dangerous, but it's a path.
It's a path.
Yeah. A couple guys typing in the Discord. We will get to your questions when they roll in. A question from Mark in the YouTube chat. Is it too ambitious to leave Soler out of Miami stacks?
If you're doing a bunch of lineups, I mean, no, you don't need him in all of them. But it's pretty galaxy brainy to like just intentionally leave him out of like your main Miami stack. And I don't love it.
For DraftKings tournaments, TJ, would you rather play Freeland or Irvin? And you can't say neither.
Freeland. I'm actually getting.
What about you, Cheese? Freeland or Irvin?
Freeland, but neither.
All right.
I got a question for Cheese. Last piece. Would you go Soto or Tatis?
I'm going Soto.
Yeah, just based on this year numbers and Irvin being so much worse against lefties, I think I got to too, even though it just feels wrong not to click Tatis's name when I can.
Yeah, it does. I agree. I've been where the last couple of days. Like it does feel wrong, and then the Washington fully right-handed bullpen helps as well.
Looking at our top stacks and top values tool on RG, I haven't refreshed this in a while. I guess I should, but it likes the Cardinals' chances of being optimal. We didn't talk Toronto. We talked Eflin, and I feel like time after time we say anytime you can get decent ownership on these Blue Jays bats, you want to take a whirl at them. So obviously Eflin, limits hard contact for the most part. Decent pitcher. Is this a both sides game for you guys if you're multi-entering? I know, TJ, you're multi-entering. So, like, Toronto, talk to me about the Jays a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm playing a bunch of both of these guys. I got 30. I mean, I'll actually probably be a little bit underweight on Eflin just because with it being such a small slate, I'm trying to get basically just crazy all around and hope I have some wildly different lineups that can take down some tournaments. And so I only have about 30% Eflin, but the Blue Jays are going to be my second highest owned stack.
What do you think, Cheese, about the Jays?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I mean, like Eflin is my favorite pitcher, but it's a 4-game slate and it's the Toronto Blue Jays. So yeah, I absolutely have some of both.
Small slate yesterday, kind of the same thing today. Is it viable to have maybe one hitter against your pitcher on your lineups?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I like it. Another question in the Discord. If you take Garrett over Eflin, would you rather pair him with? Well, we got multiple stacks here: San Diego, Miami, St. Louis, Miami, or St. Louis, Tampa. So a lot of what ifs there. It seems like we like the Cardinals, even though they have a wonky lineup. But I mean, there are pieces to all these teams. You know, between the Padres and the Rays. Let me ask you that: between the Padres and the Rays, who do you guys like more for tournaments? Let's just go there.
I like the Padres a bit better.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so close. Like, I definitely like the Padres better, and I feel like the ownership is going to be just high enough skewed to the Padres that, like, very officially, I think I have slightly more full stacks of Tampa, with slightly more mini stacks on the San Diego side.
Okay. A question from Jake in the YouTube chat. 5,400 left for DraftKings tournaments. He's stacking Tampa Bay and St. Louis. Would you rather have Josh Lowe or Randy Arozarena, TJ?
Josh Lowe. I think it's still Randy.
Chiefs?
Yeah, it's still Randy.
DK.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's close.
It really is. It really is, because Manoah's splits you enough, but it's still Randy.
Were you doing like the Brian Windhorst meme thing? Or it's like, hold on a second, let me connect the dots.
Exactly.
DK cash question. I'll stick with you, Cheese. Soler or Tatis? Two big bats. Who would you rather have for cash?
Tatis. No. Soler and cash.
Soler and cash. Yeah, I think that's right. Man, we are creeping up on lock. 12:32 Eastern. Start saving those lineups. Any stacks we didn't talk about? I mean, we didn't really talk to Rockies. You know, they're playing at Coors too. We kind of all seems like we like Garrett a little bit, but I mean, in terms of Rockies exposure, TJ, I know you're pretty standsy with stuff, but do you have any Rockies in your pool?
I do. I don't have as much full stacks of the Rockies as I do specifically Doyle, Grichuk, Blackmon, and Diaz. Like those four, and so I guess on FanDuel that's a full stack, but those four I'm getting a ton of as one-offs and mixing and matching them as mini stacks. And then those four I would like as a full stack on FanDuel as well, but not so much the full stack on DK, but I do like a lot of them individually.
DK Cash from Achilles in the Discord. Let's see. Would you rather have, it's a 3v3, Weaver, Cronenworth, and Tatis, or Eflin, Gurriel? And I don't know if that's a typo or if there's actually someone on this slate I've never heard of before. Toglia. Yep. I actually don't know who he is.
Toglia, yeah, he's on Colorado.
Yeah, he's a decent-ish prospect with some power. Personally, I would just take the Eflin side in cash.
Yeah. Speaking of prospects, Johnny Davis homered yesterday. Or Johnny Davis.
I like calling him Johnny. I'm on board with that.
But yeah, so let's see. Anything else rolling in? 2v2, Cronenworth, Grisham, or Gurriel, Toglia. DK Cash.
Sorry, I'm trying to adjust something.
I'm on the Cronenworth Grisham side of that one.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm gonna leave it. It's fine. I'm gonna leave it. We're good.
5
seconds left.
Eastern. Hit that save button. Don't forget, TJ, get it done.
It's done. It's done.
Okay. All right. DK Cash, Carpenter or Meneses?
I like they call him Nemesis. Like, if he does poorly, he will become my nemesis. I would go Carp.
Carp for me too.
All right. We've hit lock.
He's going to be Snell's nemesis today, but in general, that's a great nickname for a guy who always lets you down.
We should start using that more. Well, we have some getting ready to do for the main slate. Bunch of gas cans on that one too. Tell you what, just generally looking ahead, I know, we talked about a guy who wasn't pitched in a couple of years and just passed his physical yesterday, but man, I saw Weather Edge, and it's not really friendly, for home runs in Chicago today, but Carrasco has so many issues, and on the other side, Like, I think both of these bats are in play, despite, Weather Edge saying, hey, it might be a bad day for Wind at Wrigley. But I'm kind of interested in the Mets and Cubs later on. I did some stack rating before, but we'll see what happens. It should be a fun one. I hate when these slates are broken up and it's just, a couple games here, a couple games there. It's just not as fun.
Yeah, 4 is a little light.
Like if it was like 6 and 6 or 6 and 8, I'd love it. But 4 and 5 is kind of
yeah. Kyle Hendricks. I couldn't even think of his name. He was so bad. He just won't go away. Like Cubs fans have to be so sick of Kyle Hendricks. He was a good real life pitcher for a while, I guess. But
yeah, he was. But yeah, like that game, if the weather was just neutral, that would be super chalky on both sides. Yeah. And I'm not sure those pitchers are good enough to even do it in that weather.
Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that later. Let's get out of here. For TJ and Cheese and Steve producing, I'm Justin. See you later, guys.